Start with a dream and share it with some friends. The idea deepens and grows. The dream takes shape, it has form and substance. A community soon arose. A listening room, a hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. The walls are thin, the sirens blare. The tables sit near folding chairs. The stage is set with paint and glue, and love went into every screw. The light shine bright on every star. They come to play from near and far. The light shine bright on every star. They come to play from near and far. A listening room, the hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. Hearing room, a listening room. You're welcome here, so have no fear. The hearing room, the hearing room. Come in, my friend, where art can bloom. And welcome to the Woodshed Podcast. I'm Aaron Tornberg, and this is the Woodshed Podcast live from the virtual hearing room. So we are always trying to talk to people about the hearing room because it's a great place to come and gather. And even when we can't gather, it's a great thing to connect with each other, to connect with other musicians. That is our mission. One of the things we need to do in order to do that is we need to get people involved. And so memberships are the key to what we do. So to be a member, it's $100 a year, and what that does is it helps us pay our rent and our utilities. And even when we are socially distant, we still need to keep our place open for when we're not. So if you can go to our website. It's $100 a year, and you get a T-shirt, you get a membership card, you get $5 off. Plus, there's going to be some other programming coming up that is going to be exclusive for members, where you're going to get first crack at any shows that come in, especially the ones in high demand. That's kind of an advantage, so you should definitely check out our website to find out more. It's hearingroom.net. So everybody go to hearingroom.net. You can check out all the details about how to become a member, and ways you can actually help volunteer. So if you wanted to be at the door for a show, that would be really helpful too. So check it out, hearingroom.net, and you can find out about all our programming that we're going to be doing. Right now, it's a lot of online stuff, and we also will be providing a show. We're going to be doing an online show even after we go back to being able to live a little more normally. We are going to go back to that and then still have this show that's going to be on a video that you can do of concerts and things like that from the hearing room. So we actually already have a relationship with Lowell Telecommunications, the local cable access, and we will get you on TV perhaps in local Lowell television. So check it out. Also, I want to mention the Greenville Junction Shoppy. Greenville, JUNKTIONSHOPPE. The Greenville Junction Shop is an upcycling shop where they sell lots of things
that are refurbished and made perfect for you. So the Greenville Junction shop is located in Greenville, New Hampshire, but you can also shop on Facebook. Facebook Marketplace, Greenville, JUNKTION Greenville Junction Shop. And they have household appliances, and they have furniture, and they have electronics, and all kinds of stuff. I've bought several things there, and it's a good deal. You shouldn't just throw stuff away that's perfectly good to use, and that's what they do. They help you recycle, upcycle those things. So check it out on Facebook Marketplace and on in person in their Greenville shop if you're up in Greenville, New Hampshire. So today we have Tamara Hey, and Tamara was down at the Hearing Room a number of months ago, and I went to a show with her and saw Gordon Lightfoot, and she's a really nice person and a great musician, and I think a vegetarian as well. I'm not totally sure. Is that right, Tamara?
Yes, okay. I am.
Okay, so yeah, because we ate veggie that night. So tell us where you're from.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. I'm from New York, from the Bronx, actually, a small section of the Bronx called Riverdale, which is kind of a suburb, very close to the city, right along the Hudson River, near Yonkers, and also a little section called Inwood, where a lot of musicians live. And I grew up there. My mom still lives there. After, I don't know how many years, she still lives in the same apartment.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that, so you went to school in the Bronx and really grew up there since childhood?
Yeah, I went to public school there. I went from kindergarten through junior high. And then it was a very good school system at the time. I don't know about now, but it was a very nice place to grow up. You could walk to school, and I had lots of friends there, and I did lots of music there as a kid also. And when I went to high school, then I started traveling down to Manhattan to go to what was then called Performing Arts High School, which was located on 46th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. It was a very different era than today. That area is much nicer than it was at the time. So I got up super early before my parents. I got up at 5:30 or something like that in order to get down to school by 7:30. And it was a long day. And yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. And so you've always lived in New York?
Yes, except for I did go to college outside of New York. I went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst for a couple of years, and then I transferred to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and I finished up there, and then I moved back here.
So where did you get started in music when you were younger? How did you get involved?
Well, I was always singing around the house, Beatles and records that my parents had. Excuse me. And when I was 6, I started to take violin lessons from a very talented teacher who actually lived in our building, which was very convenient. I did that for about 4 years, and then I kind of gave that up to play piano, which I did for 10 years, and it's actually the instrument that I studied when I went to performing arts. So I played that pretty hard for a long time in our apartment, which bugged my brother terribly with all the scales that I played up and down while he was trying to watch whatever superhero cartoons on the TV. And yeah, so I studied violin and piano, and then actually, to my chagrin, when I got to high school, being a piano major, I had to pick up an orchestral instrument, and they handed the violin right back to me.
Oh yeah.
It was a nightmare for 4 years to follow.
Yeah. So, what's it like to grow up in New York when it wasn't so nice all the time? I mean, you had to probably do some things to take care of yourself that were a little different than now.
Well, I suppose, I was a little bit oblivious because I was just a kid. And, I mean, Riverdale is a very nice suburb and safe and everything, but I was kind of excited to go into the city, and it was a little seedy, but you just learn to take note of who's around you at all times, and I still do that to this day, even though it's much safer now. But look in store windows for the reflections of who's behind you, and just try to be safe and don't keep anything in your pockets. It's a good rule of thumb, for any big city.
Right.
I found myself, it was the era of game rooms at the time, where you'd go and you play Asteroids and Pac-Man and whatever.
Right.
And the city was full of those game rooms. And I didn't know that they were, not appropriate for young girls to go in. I just wanted to play some games, And when my parents found out I was going in there, they said, please don't do that anymore.
Well,
they were selling fake IDs in there.
Oh,
and,
okay.
I didn't know.
Yeah. What else? Like, was it drugs and stuff? Or
Oh, yeah. Plenty of drugs and triple X rated movies and things like that, all along 42nd Street. It's not the Disneyland. It wasn't the Disneyland that it is today.
Right. I mean, I was there in the 80s, and I was with a school trip, though, so I didn't get to really explore on my own.
What did you see?
We went to the World Trade Center, actually, and we also went to a lot of Jewish stuff because it was a Jewish school. So we
Like what?
we went to the Jewish Museum, and we went to Ellis Island, and did the immigrant experience, and Statue of Liberty, and World Trade Center, and that kind of stuff. We went to an old synagogue. I can't remember which one. Stuff like
I've
that.
never been to Ellis Island. I've still never been.
Well, it's interesting. It's actually a very well done museum.
I've heard.
And I did have a great grandfather who came through there. So you can go and you can see your relative's name.
Right. I have a grandfather who came through there too. So I would like to go. It's just
well, priorities
doesn't seem to happen. Right. It'll happen one of these days.
The other thing is, whenever I go to New York, it seems like everything takes forever because you're wherever you live. And then you have to get down there just like any other city, and it takes a while. I mean, you're going to the very tip of Manhattan, and you have to get all the way down there, and then you got to wait for the boat, and then you got to go on the boat, and it's a while, and then you go over to Ellis Island, and you buy your ticket, and you go in. I mean, it's a whole ordeal.
Yeah. Well, those are just the tourist things, but getting around New York City is not. I complain sometimes, but it's actually pretty efficient. For all its faults, the subway system is pretty good, actually. It does seem to take longer than necessary to get to and from relatively short distances, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, when I've been visiting, I've done the subway a few times. I haven't always done it, but. A lot of times I try to walk because, it's one of those cities.
Yeah, walking is great here.
Yeah, you can, right? And that's the key.
Yeah, right. I love to walk.
Right, and
I love to walk.
It's a great city to walk in. I mean, there's so much to see every block, and so. But when you started playing out. You had to go and do clubs and stuff, right? So, what are the clubs like when you started playing?
In New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there were more clubs too. My first gig was at CBGB's Gallery, which was next door to the CBGB's punk club that everybody knows. The Gallery was right next door. It was 313 Bowery, and they had, art exhibits there and a stage. And I had my very first show there. I was scared to death, probably just as scared to death as I am, sometimes when I do them today. But it was really awesome. I played there. I also played at what I think was the original Shanae. I don't know if you've ever heard of that place. It moved several times. It's where Jeff Buckley played, and I think did some famous recordings there. It was on St. Mark's Place. It was a tiny club. I needed help to get booked there. A friend of a friend recommended me, and I played several shows there after that. And it was just, there in this neighborhood, it was in the East Village where I live now, drugs everywhere. And my parents would come down and hear me, come down from Riverdale, and people, would offer them crack outside the club. I'm like, look, these are my parents, and they would say, as a joke, I suppose, the dealers would say 5050, meaning, my parents might be police or something like that.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't, but they didn't belong, I guess, is what the implication was there. I played there, and I played at the Sidewalk Cafe, which only recently last year closed after decades. Have you heard of the Sidewalk Cafe?
No, where was that?
Oh, it was on the corner of Avenue A and 6th Street in the East Village, and it had a decades-old, very, very popular open mic on Monday nights that I used to do. Even when I lived on the Upper East Side, I used to come down after work on Mondays. It would go until the wee hours of the morning, and hundreds of people would sign up, and it was really a scene. I'm trying to think of some of the people who came out of there. Ingrid Mickleson, some other people. I can't. No. I'll think of it in a second. Anyway, it was really fun. I mean, it was a long evening, and I met some really great people there that I'm still friends with today. They only recently closed last year.
Yeah, a lot of places are at this point. So how did that work? You had hundreds of people signing up.
Yeah.
And then how did they decide? Was it first come, first serve?
No, it was quote unquote random. I mean, the host was sort of notorious for having his favorites and giving you a better time slot if he liked you. But it was somewhat random. You'd get, I think, 2 songs, and then after starting at midnight, you got 1. And even still, it could still go till 3 o'clock in the morning. And, you didn't have to stay, of course, but I didn't live in the neighborhood, so it's not like I could leave and wander around and come back. But there was a bit of a stigma attached if you did leave and you didn't wait for your spot. You don't want to piss off the host, because next time you come, you'd like a better spot. And, but it was fun. And, open mics are such a great way to work out material and get encouragement if it's the right crowd. It was a very encouraging crowd. Every time you had a new song, there was always new song applause, to start.
Oh, yeah. And
it was really great. I got a lot of practice there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So you went to school at Amherst and then Berkeley. What did you do at Amherst? Was it music as well?
No, at Amherst, I did a semester or 2 of drama. I just, after my 4 years at Performing Arts High School, I was a little burnt out on music. I still practiced piano for a while in the practice rooms that were at Amherst, but I I was really fried. In fact, I had really wanted to take a year off between high school and college, but my parents talked me out of it. So I just needed a break. And then my second year, I studied English. I was an English major. But I also picked up the guitar in college. And I just decided to teach myself. I didn't want any lessons. I didn't want any teachers. I was tired of it, but I did feel like I needed an instrument. So also I was really depressed because I didn't want to be there at school at all. So my guitar was my buddy. I had a breakup and all that stuff, and I carried my guitar around like it was my only friend. It's kind of pathetic, but it kind of kept me company.
I wouldn't call it pathetic, but
well, maybe maybe not. Looking back, I guess it seems a little pathetic from my point of view now, but no, I ended every single day by practicing my guitar in the stairway of the dorm, which at Amherst, they had these really tall, high-rise dorms. I was in one of those. So I sat on the cold cement and I played whatever Bob Dylan songs or whatever I could find. I had to go to a music store in the town, and I had a lot of music training, but nothing that really prepared me too much for just picking up an instrument and giving it a shot. I studied classical, so there wasn't much discussion about just pop harmony or anything like that. So at the end of every day, no matter what time it was, I finished all my homework, and I would just play my guitar, and that's where I started to learn Joni Mitchell songs and Beatles songs on the guitar. And the campus had coffee houses. They were like open mics. And I used to go to those. And I had such a good time. It was the best thing. And I also met this guy, I don't remember where. His name was Dave, and we formed a duo. And I wasn't really playing guitar then so much, but he did teach me some. I was singing also, and we just had some gigs around campus. And he was just one of these guys who would have a club gig and he would do covers for 3 hours. And so I learned so much. I learned so much from him. That was just a great time. And then after my second year, I thought I'd really like to write songs. And I'm ready to go back to music school. So I sent in whatever was necessary, to get into Berkeley, and they let me in. And then I transferred.
Yeah, so you must have had some serious training in order to get into Berkeley.
Well, I still had my ear training and theory stuff from high school. I don't remember having any kind of test or anything, but they just probably saw my transcript. I don't really remember. Seems like so long ago. I remember I sent in a cassette tape of me playing whatever song I had tried to write. One of my first songs probably had to have been. And they said, okay. And then I do know that when I got to Berkeley, I had to take some kind of test, and then they would decide where to place me as far as ear training and theory classes. And I did pass through. I did get to skip a couple of years of theory because of my high school situation.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool. And then you, when you went to Berkeley, you lived in Boston and found all the Boston places to play. And
yeah, I didn't play that much in Boston, actually. Really? No, I didn't. I was only just starting to write. And, you go to Berkeley and then you realize, oh, I can't play this at all, because there were real guitar players there. And I think I was mostly just studying. I did take some performing songwriter classes, and I did that there. But I did a little bit of recording too, actually. A friend of mine, Brian Kingman, who I'd actually met at Amherst, who is an audio engineer now, he actually transferred to Berkeley too, about a semester after I did. And I saw him crossing Mass Ave. I said, "Hey, wait a minute! Didn't I meet you at Amherst?"
Yeah.
And so I used to go to his apartment, and we recorded a lot of stuff to reel tape and things like that he was practicing on. And yeah, so I did a lot of recording, but I didn't do a lot of clubs. Plus, I was underage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess that's a problem when you're in college. You typically are. So
Yeah. I did play an open mic, I remember, at the Can Tab. And the only reason I remember it is because it was one of the only open mics I did. Plus, last year I actually went back and I played there.
Oh, yeah?
An actual show. Not that they would have remembered me decades later, but it was still a dive. But it was great.
It's still going strong, too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was a great experience.
Yeah. So, why don't you play a song for us?
Okay. Let's see. This is a song I tend to open up my set with at shows because it's nice, easygoing bit. It's called I'm in Love with You, George Harrison.
Okay. Great.
I'm in love with you, George Harrison, and I have been since I was 5. I'm not some kind of crazy psychopath. I never thought that you and I were meant to be in real life. I danced around the room, staring at your picture, pretending that you were smiling at me. With your crooked teeth, your dark eyes so serious, so mysterious, you would always be the type for me. Sometimes I don't believe the sun is ever coming, and I start to cry. Sometimes I won't believe the sun is ever coming, but you wouldn't lie to me, 'cause I'm in love with you, George Harrison. Even though I've been untrue now and then, I hear your voice and your guitar, and I know you're never far when another love comes to an end. Sometimes I don't believe the sun is ever coming, and I start to cry. Sometimes I won't believe the sun is ever coming, but you wouldn't lie. You wouldn't lie to me, 'cause I'm in love with you, George Harrison. I'm in love with you, George Harrison. I'm in love with you, George Harrison, and I have been since I was 5.
All right. That was great.
Thank you.
So, that's, I guess, influenced. It's your influence of the Beatles that sort of inspires that one. So, you like George Harrison the best? That was your Beatle?
Yes, he's my favorite. I still have a lingering crush.
Yeah, he was pretty. I think he was undersung a lot of times in that group. So many talented people in that one band. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked his stuff. I used to listen to his solo stuff a lot. It's great.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I mean, I had a crush on him, so he was my favorite. I mean, I was literally only 5 years old or less. Less really, but 4 doesn't have as many good rhymes as 5, so I bumped it up to 5. But so has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, and I remember that album he came out with, Cloud 9. That sort of blew my mind when I was like, wow, this guy is at least as good as those other guys, because that album just really, it was a great pop album. It just had a great sound to it.
Yeah.
So when you started playing out, you didn't write songs. What were your favorite covers?
I used to sing maybe some Beatles, but I sang Joni Mitchell covers and Joan Baez covers, Bob Dylan, things like that. Mostly, again, I wasn't gigging, so it was all open mics and I could just do a few songs. So I only needed a few in my pocket, I remember I used to sing Big Yellow Taxi, and actually that's the song that encouraged me to learn to play bar chords on the guitar, and Circle Game and Both Sides Now. Of course, I had a much higher voice then too, so those songs were more possible. Folk songs, folky songs.
Well, that's right in my wheelhouse. So
yeah.
It's nice to that repertoire is great for open mics, because you can do it solo easily.
Right.
And what Dylan songs did you like?
I think I did Blowin' in the Wind, and I might have done I can't think of the Percy song. I used to like that a lot too. And also, I think I might have done some Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, yeah.
It was a long time ago. And I don't do covers really anymore. And my students are not interested in those songs. So I don't keep up with them.
What do you do? A lot of Taylor Swift now?
I do some Taylor Swift. Some, yeah.
And who else?
Well, my students are really varied right now. I have one young girl, I think she's only 14, but she only likes bands from the 90s.
Oh, well, that's okay.
For her, that's retro,
Right.
So we're doing some Nirvana and something by Hole called Doll Parts.
Wow.
Which I really like, Ed Sheeran is very popular.
Yeah.
Not as easy as you'd think. I have some students who've become much more advanced, which is really fun for me because we do finger picking and interesting songs. And there's songs like Demons by Imagine Dragons. A lot of the songs today have just 3 or 4 chords.
Right. And the students you got, you started teaching after Berkeley. Was that how you were trying to make a living, or?
I started teaching as a more, I can't say it was ever full time, but I had a lot of office jobs, part-time, full-time jobs, and I started to transition to teaching around the year 2000, actually. I wasn't teaching before that. I moved back to New York City from Berkeley in 92. I spent those bunch of years working in offices as a legal secretary and a real estate broker's assistant and, whatever office jobs driving me crazy.
Right.
Actually, the real estate assistant job, it drove me crazy. But the cool thing about it was I got to go out of the office and show apartments, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I learned my way around the West Village, which is a maze, and there's no sense to it. So actually that wasn't the worst job that I ever had. I showed apartments, I ran around, and it was pretty cool. I started teaching around 2000, I don't even remember what my motivation was, but, and when I think about it, it's pretty ballsy because it's not like I was some super guitar player, but I don't know. I like teaching, and I just figured, let me teach somebody what I know. And then I realized while I'm can watch somebody and see what they're doing, and by doing that I can say, oh, well, why don't you try this instead? Come up with ways to help each individual person. I wasn't teaching, a group or anything. I didn't want to teach in school. That was not for me.
Right.
I think I'm a pretty good teacher, and I really I like beginners. And once in a while, if I have a student who wants to know how to do a little bit of something that I'm not that comfortable with, I'm excited because I just have to stay a couple of steps ahead of that person. And then I learn something too. And I have no problem saying, you know what, I don't know how to do that. I'm going to figure it out, or we'll figure it out together.
Right.
And then I feel like my process of figuring out how to do something is really helpful to that person, because I'm not, then they can see, well, okay, that's how you figure out something that you don't know how to do, because that's part of it.
You said you were doing some classical training on piano. Did you ever do classical training on guitar?
No.
No? Okay.
No, although I didn't take any guitar lessons, except I did take a handful of lessons when I first started from a guy at UMass Amherst. His name is Mike Nix, and I believe he's still out there. And I'm so grateful that I took those lessons, because he taught me finger picking. And I cannot stress the importance of a good finger picking teacher, or at least, picking up good finger picking habits, because the bad habits are very hard to break in finger picking. So I'm so grateful. And I still have the book that I used, that he gave me, and I still use that book to teach other students. So I'm very thankful that I took those lessons.
Yeah, and the finger picking you're talking about is like finger style? Is that?
Yeah, picking with your fingers, literally. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Had I not taken those lessons, I don't know if I would be able to play with the speed. And I'm no speed demon either, but still, I know I have those lessons to thank for whatever I can do.
Okay.
Today.
Well, you got another song you want to do?
Sure.
Right.
Let's see. Finger picking.
Sure.
Okay. This is a song I wrote back in the 90s. I was living on the Upper East Side. This song is actually a 100% true story. I lived in a little tiny studio apartment on East 74th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. And I had these downstairs neighbors, these kind of elderly guys. And they lived together in a studio apartment. And they claimed to be brothers, but everybody knew they weren't actually brothers. They were so nice, and they were very supportive, always looking out for everybody in the building. This is called Oscar and Bud. My neighbor Bud, his last name is Miller. He lives with his brother, whose first name is Oscar. Oscar's last name isn't Miller. They were once actors, and they both changed their names. They peek through the door to watch the neighbors. They know the kind of hours we keep. Who gets the junk mail and the most love letters? Who never pays their bills and who always loses keys? Oscar and Bud, Bud and Oscar, the guys downstairs with my spare keys. Bud and Oscar, Oscar and Bud, the guys downstairs who watch over me. Oscar was on tour with Hello Dolly. Bud once dated Lauren Bacall. One New Year's Eve, I saw all their pictures of really famous people I'd never heard of at all. Oscar and Bud and Oscar, the guys downstairs with my spare keys. Bud and Oscar, Oscar and Bud, the guys downstairs who watch over me. Just across the street, there's a big, big church with big, big weddings every weekend. Bud sits on the stoop with a bowl of soup and calls back to Oscar, hurry, here comes the bride. Do 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 do. Oscar and Bud think I'll be famous, and then I won't live in the building anymore. But just in case that never happens, Oscar and Bud stuck a star to my door. Oscar and Bud and Oscar, the guys downstairs with my spare keys. Bud and Oscar, Oscar and Bud, the guys downstairs who watch over me.
So that was great. Nice
Thank you.
job.
Oh, thanks. I think I said soup instead of stoop.
Oh, well,
Bud sits on the stoop with a bowl of soup.
I thought
But,
he
you
sat
know,
on
hey.
the soup with a bowl of soup.
Well,
Either way.
okay. Alt version.
That was good. I like it's a fun song, sort of
Thank you.
suggesting what's going on without actually stating it, which is probably what they were doing, right? So this was in New York. You knew those guys?
Yeah, I lived on the Upper East Side at the time. I lived there for 5 years in this tiny
Yeah.
apartment, a studio. I can't believe I lived in that space. Well, I mean, I live in a bigger space now, but it's not that much.
Yeah.
Not that
Now
much
you're in the
bigger.
big time. You got a 1-bedroom.
Yes, I got a
know.
one bedroom. But my husband, who's also a musician, he took over what used to be the living room, and it's a music studio now. So really, I'm just back in a studio apartment in a way. I live in the bedroom, and I go to the kitchen when necessary.
Well, that's kind of it's a New York way of living, I suppose.
Yep.
So,
Gotta do what you gotta do. You know, we got used to it. It's
yeah.
fine.
So I'm going to take a short break here and
Okay.
talk about the hearing room again. So today we are speaking with Tamara Hey, and she is a singer-songwriter from New York, has been to the hearing room, and she knows that we do a lot of cool stuff there. I think Tamara was at the open mic and did a feature there. The hearing room has lots of stuff going on all the time. We have open mics, and we have jams, and we have shows, and we have other kinds of arts events. We have spoken word evenings, all kinds of things that you can do. But what we are looking for is members. We want people to come and help support us, to keep us open, and help you take advantage of all the cool programming we do. So if you're interested in the hearing room, you should first of all show up when we can, but also you can check out what we're doing online, and we are doing open mics online regularly. We have a Tuesday night 7 to 10, and we have the Sunday open mic I do 2 to 5 p.m., and we're still running those. We're just running them on the Zoom software, so you can get Zoom, and you can check out our Facebook page at Hearing Room on Facebook or hearingroom.net on the web, and you can connect with people, and you can find out how to connect with other musicians and be part of our open mics and our jams and other events. So hearingroom.net is where you want to go to be a member. It's $100 a year. You get a t-shirt and a membership card. You get access to exclusive events, and you get access to events in advance, like big shows that we are putting on, and you'll get the first crack at tickets. So please look into joining. If you're involved with the Hearing Room already, you should certainly consider joining and helping us stay open. And it's a great place to hang out and a great bunch of people to hang out with. So, hearingroom.net, and also we want to talk about the Greenville Junction Shoppy. Greenville, Greenville, Junction, Junktion, Shoppy, Shoppe. The Greenville Junction Shop is an upcycling shop with household appliances, furniture, and electronics, and all kinds of other items that might be of interest to you. Go to Facebook Marketplace, and you can find out what they have today. There's all kinds of things on the list, and always new stuff coming in. They do have a shop in Greenville, New Hampshire, and that is another way you can find out what they have for sale. And they have some great furniture, stuff that's just really nice that just comes up for sale, but you get it at a steal. So if you're looking for ways to furnish your house and get some items that are unique, check out the Greenville Junction Shop. So today we're talking with Tamara Hey, and that is how I pronounce it, right, Tamara?
Yes, that's
Yes.
right, Tamara.
I've been working on it.
That's fine.
So you finished at Berkeley and you came back to New York and you did a lot of those office jobs. But then at some point you met your husband, who's also in the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
Was he doing that when you met him?
Yes. Music or
Yeah.
office jobs? Yes.
Music.
Music. Yeah, he was doing music. I met him in the late 90s through a friend whom I met at a writing workshop. She introduced me to him. They were in a wedding band together. And he was working. I don't remember where the studio was right now. He was doing some weird jobs that he had at the time.
Yeah.
It could have been recreating. I think he was recreating tracks for karaoke.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he had a little tiny space there, and she took me to meet him because this mutual friend wanted to be. I don't know if she wanted to be my manager. I think she maybe was just interested in. She was interested in my songwriting and wanted to help me somehow, and maybe do some producing. In any case, she brought me to his studio to record a song that I had written back then. And that's how we met. And I had I recorded the song, and then that night I had a show at CB's Gallery, and he rollerbladed down to my show. And then we started dating after that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you got married after a while, and
we got married. Yeah, we got married in 2001, just a few days after 9/11.
Wow.
Which was interesting. Yeah, we've been married since 2001. This year will be our 19th anniversary, I guess.
So
Is that right? Yeah.
When did you stop doing the office jobs?
I stopped doing the office jobs in 2002-ish.
Yeah.
I still kind of, I met some people in the offices where I worked who needed, some freelance help, and I would help them afterwards. Mm-hmm. Just on a kind of case by case basis. I was learning to build websites at the time using HTML.
Oh yeah. I remember that. Before
Those were great days, actually. I have to say, my first job that I had when I moved back to New York after Berkeley was at a music publisher's office. I worked there full time, and then I worked there part time, and I learned a lot there about music publishing, but also I learned how to use a computer there.
Right.
I'd never been on a computer, so I learned in DOS. I even learned how to create what were called macros. I don't know how I did that. I remember a very, very fat manual that I that I was using to create boilerplate music publishing sync licenses. Anyway, so I learned a lot there, and that experience of learning DOS helped me to learn HTML, because that's pretty much were pretty much the same thing.
Right.
So I was doing some of that, and just learning. I love to learn new computer programs. After I've learned them, I get bored, and I'm not because I become some expert and it's dull. I just okay, fine. I like to learn new programs just enough so that I can do whatever it is I need to do. And that
Right.
I never took any big classes or anything like that, but I do enjoy certain programs that have to do with coding. But I can only go so far. My brain doesn't process things past a certain level as far as coding goes.
Well, as long as you can get done what you need to get done, that's kind of the point,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
all
Yeah,
you
I mean,
need.
I've been doing little video editing now. I make these little music theory videos for Instagram, and I really enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah, it seems like you're kind of more of a teacher now. In terms of, I've seen you do a lot of like I'm taking one of your classes now, doing music theory and doing things online, and you have a lot of cool tools
Yes.
to do that. And that is kind of neat, because that's kind of what you need, is you need a suite of tools that you know really well, and then you can effectively teach. And the thing I thought was neat was when you were writing on the iPad and it was showing up on the meeting, on the Zoom meeting,
Yes.
and we could just see what you're doing, like in the old overheads where teachers
Right.
would write on an overhead. And it's takes a little more work to figure out how to do that now, but it's still possible. And
It's still possible, yeah. And basically, I'm just recreating what I do in the class in person, where I still use my iPad and a projector. But that took some figuring out and a lot of phone calls
Yeah.
to Apple to figure out, well, how do I do this? And it was great. It's a great tool, because before that I was relying on whiteboards and things like that. And when you teach music, you really need lines, and it's involved. So this was really a great thing to figure out how to do. The projector and the iPad. It's incredible what you can do now.
And when you work on your stuff, do you use Sibelius and actually transcribe all your music?
I do. I don't always finish, a full chart of what I'm doing, but I take these workshops, these songwriting workshops, where with this great guy named Tony Kniff. He's a bass player, and he does these songwriting workshops, which are outstanding. And the idea behind these workshops is you get an assignment, which is so helpful to me. I thrive on two things: the deadline.
Okay.
I need the deadline, and I really like to get an assignment because that just takes one thing off my shoulders. Whatever it is that I have to do this week has to have this, and that gives me a place to start. Whatever that thing is, it's just instead of a blank piece of paper, there's something on it. Whether it's something musical or something lyric related, I know I have to include this one thing, and then that really helps me get started. But the thing about that is, especially for me, not that I'm a procrastinator, but I don't write quickly, so I spend days and days feeling like I have nothing to bring to class, and then on the last day, finally, I pull something together, which is fine. It's a lot of pressure, and I'm not very pleasant to be around on
Right.
those days. But the problem is, when something is that fresh, you could easily forget it, especially if you count nerves, that you have. So by the time I leave my apartment and get to the class, I could forget the entire thing. and then I have to play it for a group of people. So it really helps me to be able to write my ideas down in Sibelius, so I can look at it, say, okay, this is what I wrote half an hour ago.
Right.
It's very, very helpful. It's not about the lyrics. It's about the melodies that, I might easily forget how that melody went, because it's so fresh. So it's like a security blanket, I print it out and there it is.
Yeah, well, it's good to have that tool.
Yeah.
And Sibelius is an expensive program, but it's the one that everybody uses, it seems. I've used several others that are sort of just thrown, they're okay, but Sibelius seems to be the standard for professionals anyway.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I'm lucky because my husband has a licensed copy that he got because he was working. I think he got it when he was working with Rod Stewart. And so, I get to use it too. So yeah.
So your
I'm just
husband
lucky that way.
He's a producer, right?
He's a producer, arranger, keyboard player, pianist. Mm-hmm. He does everything.
So he's a big help, I imagine, if you got questions, right?
Yeah, he can be.
Yeah.
It depends on the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I use my wife for, is questions I have about time signatures and music, because she has training and I don't. So it's kind of good to have somebody around like that. But you had some interesting experiences at home with people your husband was working with.
Yes.
Yeah, so you want to talk about those?
At home?
Yeah, well, you had guests that were sort of notable people.
Yes. Well, I'll just come out and say that David Bowie sat on my couch several times.
Wow.
Which I will never ever forget.
Yeah.
Even now, I can't believe it that it ever happened. Yeah.
So what happens when someone like that just comes over to hang out? Do they have an entourage?
No, there was no entourage.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was driven, to this to our street. He didn't live that far away, but I'm sure he didn't walk.
Yeah.
Especially at that time in his life, when he wasn't all that well. I think he got dropped off across the street, and his driver probably waited. He just walked across the street into the building, and no one ever knew.
Yeah.
So, the first time he came over, I was really nervous. I stayed in the other room, and I came to just say hello. I didn't want to intrude. I didn't want to bother anybody. He was very, very nice, very sweet. And I said, I just wanted to say hello, And we had another dog at the time named Ella, and she was getting older, but in most of her life, she would always want to come and see who's there, who's new in the apartment. And she didn't happen to come down when David Bowie was here. And my husband said, "Where's Ella?" And I said, "Well, I told her that David was here, but she didn't believe me." So she's staying in the other room.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna hang out here. It's just David
so
Bowie.
Then sure, Mom, sure, David Bowie's here. I'm going back to sleep now. And then I turned to leave, and he said, "Oh no, don't go." And I said, "Oh no, I don't want to be in the way." And I got the hell out of there because I just couldn't take any more.
Yeah.
But on other times when he came, he was so nice. He greeted me so nicely. I was not in the way. I was not meant to feel like I was in the way or intruding or anything like that. He gave me a kiss on the cheek,
Kind of hard not to be in the way if you're in a one-bedroom apartment too. But...
Right. Well, I just, I hid myself away in the bedroom, and I just figure the less I'm around, the better, so I don't do anything or say anything that I regret for the rest of my days. But he was extremely, extremely nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, So I think it's time for another song.
All
What do you
right.
think?
Let me just check my tuning here. I'm on an old Guild F20, which I recently had a neck reset.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big job. But it's from 63, I think. So, it's still temperamental. Well, since we talked a bunch about my childhood and stuff, I thought I would do this song. One of the assignments I had in that class that I mentioned was to write something about a nice memory about your childhood. So when I was a kid, we didn't have the toys that we have today,
Mm-hmm.
the phones and the iPads and the internet for that matter.
Right.
So in the summer, we would just hang out on the sidewalk. I lived in an apartment building. We just hung out downstairs in the heat, and I don't know what we did until it got dark. And then we went upstairs and then started all over again the next day. So this is a song called We Lean on Cars, because that's what we did for fun.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Let me just check this again. It was at least as much fun as anything that kids do today.
Yeah.
It really, well,
Well, playing on your phone is fun and all, but it is pretty mindless in a lot of cases. I find myself playing those games where you have 3 fruits or 3 shapes or whatever that are the same color and you match them up, and there's lots of those.
No, I can't. I don't play games on the phone,
Yeah.
thank God.
And
I do the crossword puzzles, but
well, those are good too.
yeah. I waste plenty of time. Don't get me wrong. I just don't play the games. Okay, so this is called We Lean on Cars. No one's cooler than me. No one on the whole street. I'm smoking candy cigarettes. And I know all the boys. We lean on cars all summer long. No one's shorter than me. No one really wants to be. They grab the hat off of my head and hold it way up high. We lean on cars. We lean on cars all summer long. Your arms around me in 98 degrees, boy. Your arm around me like I belong to you. You never used to notice me, but now you do. We lean on cars till it's time to go upstairs. So kiss me before the elevator doors close. Kiss me because when summer's gone, I know that I won't see you all winter long. And no one is happier than me. No one could ever be. Got the radio up loud, waiting for our favorite song to come around. We lean on cars. We lean on cars. We lean on cars all summer long. All summer long. All summer long. Thank you.
So The leaning on cars seems like a good pastime, but didn't you annoy people whose car it was?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But, we were punks.
Right. And then they come out and yell at you for leaning on their car.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a friend who would not enjoy that.
No.
People lean on his car.
No, we did it anyway.
We almost got in a fight because of that once. But
take your chances.
Yeah. So now, when you started, when you were with your husband about 2002, you said you stopped working in the offices. So, did you just start doing music full time at that point?
Yeah, I was. Well, no. I still had other jobs. I think it's kind of a blur. No. I think I was just teaching. And I had some other jobs maintaining, building and maintaining very simple websites. Also at the time, but no, I was mostly teaching before we got married, and it had nothing to do with the fact that we got married. I think actually, even before we got married, I had already stopped working in the offices and was just teaching.
Mm-hmm. And and you were still writing songs as well, or that came later?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I started writing songs shortly after I picked up the guitar. But I had long periods of not writing because of writer's block and things like that. If someone died, who's when my father died, for example, I didn't write or even perform for a few years. That's just me, I'd love to write songs, but I also hate it. I find it very, very difficult, not fun. But then, when I finish something, I couldn't be happier. So it's a real love-hate thing. But that's why I take those workshops I mentioned, because they really help me. They really, really help me. I've made, I don't know how many albums, if you can call them that anymore. I did make 3 CDs worth of records and things like that. And I can definitely say that 99% of the songs on those records were from assignments that I had.
And the assignments are like the song prompts, that kind of thing?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It can be something lyric related or something harmony related, melody related. Any of those things are helpful to me. Mm-hmm.
And what about chord progressions? They dictate some of those to you as well?
A little bit. Try to use a major 6 chord or something like that,
Right.
Like the Beatles did, or, I mean, not that I haven't tried a million times on my own without a songwriting prompt to write something like the Beatles did, but, always a fail.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you lift a progression straight off a Beatles song, it's never going to be like the Beatles.
Right. Well, you don't need to be like the Beatles. You need to be like Tamara.
Yeah, but you gotta dream.
Right. As famous, maybe. That would be good.
No, but they had so many great, chord progressions.
Yeah, Strawberry Fields, that's my favorite.
Right.
Starting with that chord is really interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I also picked up some not bad habits, but particular habit from listening to so many Beatles songs is that I tend to use what's called the minor 4 chord, changing from like if you're playing this, and then you go
right.
It's a very Beatlesque thing to do, and at one point every song I wrote had that change in it.
Yeah, but what's interesting about them too is they were exploring different genres of music and different world cultures, and that sort of influenced what they do. I mean, without doing the Ravi Shankar period, some of that music never would have happened.
Right.
Because they were really delving into that. And, Paul Simon did the same thing with some of his stuff with Graceland. And, I mean, he did that with lots of things, like gospel he got into. And then he got into African music and Spanish, Latin American music. And that's always helpful to get your perspective changed,
I think so.
And it sounds like you got that with classes. You had people who knew more changing your perspective.
Yeah. It's easy to just keep going around and around with the same thing that you are comfortable with, and you could do a lot of great things with the same thing. Look at all the songs that are out there that have the same 4 chords in it.
Right.
In one sense, you could say it's dull, but look what they did. Look what people are doing with just the same 4 chords. And it's not a recent thing either. I still teach songs like Stand By Me, decades old song, same 4 chords that are, the magic 4 chords today.
Right. But it's the way you do the 4 chords makes the difference.
Right.
You have to.
Yeah.
The performance is part of the deal.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's right. I think it's really fascinating. I mean, I definitely had an assignment once from the same class where the assignment was to use the same chord progression in the verse as in the chorus. And I thought, what?
Well, there's 2 chord songs where they use the same progression all the way through. It's just 2 chords.
Yeah. Like what, though? Because sometimes I'm trying to find those songs for my students, and I can never find them.
Well, like the Banana Boat song.
Banana Boat, okay.
Day-o.
Right.
That one. And there's actually, if you look online, there's lists of 2 chord songs. And there are a few. Eleanor Rigby, if you play it,
that's right.
That can be a 2 chord song.
Yes, I have taught that one. You don't need this. And actually, even though that has some special things you can do with one of those chords, that special thing, is really just added to one of the chords, and the students really get a kick out of that.
Right, but it's at its base, it's E minor
it's just
C.
2.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
just
that's
2 chords. That's right.
So, those are always fun to do. It's what you do with the simplicity of it that really makes the difference. And you can take an E minor and play it in all kinds of different ways. I mean, you can finger pick it, and you can play the chord straight, and you can play a bass line around it. There's all kinds of things to do.
Yeah.
You got only, it looks like, about 7 songs on your website. Are you selling your stuff elsewhere?
7 songs on my website, is that right?
Well,
I believe you.
I'm not looking in the right place, maybe. I'm looking under media.
No.
Yeah.
I think, those 7 songs are probably, I'm guessing, songs that I recorded at home. A couple of years ago, just in the living room, just acoustic guitar and vocal stuff. But no, I have other records available. I sell them on CD Baby and iTunes.
Okay.
They're in the usual places.
Yeah.
They're with full band arrangements, which are really, really fun.
Right.
I had a blast with that. Had really great players. Another fortunate aspect of my relationship with my husband. He knows the best players.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty spoiled like that. But I think that, I really wanted to do just acoustic guitar vocal stuff, just to show that the songs could stand on their own. And some of them hadn't been recorded before anyway. Mm-hmm. And as much as I love those records, if I did make another record today, I would do it differently. I would do much more stripped down than those were. And I'm a better player now than I was during that time anyway. So I would like to do something more stripped down. I also don't perform with a band anymore. I just felt like, even though I felt like the shows were about the band and how
Right.
special the players were, because they really were fantastic, you
Right.
know, and it was very exciting. And but I also felt like maybe it's time that I don't hide behind these players anymore. And also, let's see who comes out to hear the show when it's just me.
Right.
You know?
And you did come to Lowell and do some, so you tour a little locally too.
Yeah, but I didn't do a lot of touring. Just the last couple of years, I decided, you know, I'm not getting any younger. I did some in my 20s. I played some really nice shows. I even opened for Ellis Paul once, which was pretty cool,
Oh, yeah.
in New Hampshire. And I did some radio things. But aside from that, I mostly stayed local. And I really just felt like it was time to get out and do some playing the last couple of years. And I really think that was a great idea for me. I just felt like I was ready to do that. You know, I could support myself better on my guitar than I had been when I was playing with the band. It was just time to be able to, you know, carry the show on my own. So it forced me to practice a different way and really focus on my performance.
Yeah.
Not rely on, you know, best drummer and best bass player and best guitar players
Right.
in town. And
Well, it's
best
also-
keyboard player, too.
It's cheaper to travel that way. And
Oh, yeah.
you know, you can actually make money instead of losing money.
Right. Well, I lost money anyway, but, you know, not as much.
Right. And you get your stuff out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So your website is Tamara Hey. That's TAMARAHEY.com. And you've got a bunch of videos and songs people can hear on here. And you said that your stuff is also available on CD Baby and I assume Amazon, iTunes, all the usual places.
Yes.
So, what are your plans for the next project?
You know, I'm not a big fan of recording. So if by project you meant recording project, I do have a going list of songs that I've written that haven't been recorded. And I look at that list sometimes and I do feel like, oh, okay, maybe it might be time to record these, but, I'm not a huge fan of recording. I don't like to be surrounded by the wires and the headphones and the all that junk. So I think project-wise, I think I would like to tour some more. You know, I'd like to go back out and play to strangers, empty rooms, non-empty rooms, whatever happens to happen.
Yeah.
It was really a great idea to do it finally, you know.
Yeah.
I know you're going to ask me about, you know, advice that I have, and that's definitely going to be part of my advice is to get out there and do it, because nothing has changed my confidence as a performer as much as that, you know, that did.
Yeah. So, why don't we hear another song if you got
Okay.
one there?
Let's see what's on my little list. Oh, well, I do have this little project in the back of my mind, where, you know, I like to write short songs. All my songs are relatively short anyway, but I have written a couple of really short songs, you know, songs that are 30 seconds at most or whatever. And I have this idea that wouldn't it be cool to have just a whole album of little tiny short songs. But they're not as easy to write as one might think. But here's one that I wrote last year or so. And it has a little backstory. Actually, the story is longer than the song. But before I met my husband, my grandmother had a friend down the hall from her named Mrs. Levy. And Mrs. Levy had a son. And apparently he was a musician part-time, you know, on the weekends or whatever, blah, blah. And I was not married, and they were sort of conspiring to set me up with this son of Mrs. Levy's. And being the stubborn person that I was, there was no way that was going to happen. It didn't matter what they told me about his musical hobbies. And also the fact that he had a ponytail. This was supposed to be, you know, he's a musician and he has a ponytail. And these were, you know, supposed to be selling points, which only indicated how desperate my grandmother must have been to see me get married. If we're stooping so low as to a musician with a ponytail, it may be time to step up my efforts. But in any case, I never met him. But I did end up marrying a musician with a ponytail nonetheless, just not a Jewish one, which I think was probably part of the hopes there. But that's just too bad, isn't it? So anyway, this song is called Mrs. Levy. And also it happens to, I lifted this chord progression from a Beatles song, I'm sure of it. Maybe 8 Days a Week, which is one of my favorite Beatles songs. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Levy. I know you probably don't believe me. I'm in love. What's done is done. And your son is not the one.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's great.
Thanks.
Reminded me a little of Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter.
Oh, yes. Is that the Turtles?
It's either them or the Herman's
Hermits. I think that's who it is.
One of the two.
Yeah.
But that was quite short.
Quite short, yes. I have other ones that are that short too. I can play you another one if you like.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. This is actually the first one of the short song future series or whatever it's going to be. Also based on a true story. It's called Mexico Money. We were supposed to go to Mexico when you called me on the telephone to break up with me before I bought my ticket, which was the only considerate thing you ever really did. And I bought a CD player with my Mexico money. Ooh, they were expensive back then.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know what that reminds me of is what's the name? Now I'm blanking. There's They Might Be Giants. They do a lot of these short songs that become longer songs. They kind of they just, but their albums are just tons of songs, particularly the kids ones, where they have like a different short song for every topic that they're trying to cover. I like They Might Be Science was one of them, and a bunch of others. So
I don't know those.
Yeah, you might want to listen to those. They're cute. I mean, they're kids' albums, so I think a lot of people skip over them. But actually, I think they're brilliant. They're very good. And the short song thing, that's an idea.
I did do a children's album with someone about 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. It was a really nice record. I was very, very proud of it. It had it was called Sharing the Same Stars, and it's a really nice record, and it has kind of smart songs that reminded me of songs that I grew up with, you know, on Sesame Street or Electric Company, that had a little bit of, you know, smarts
right
to it. Not no offense to, you know, and the other songs, but it was not like Baby Shark or anything like that.
Right. Well, I mean, there are a lot of those on Sesame Street that really are very smart. And there's a lot of sketches they do that are pretty, like, they're for the parents, some of them.
Right. Right. I would say that these songs that we did were, you know, some of them were definitely, you know, hopefully the hope was that the songs would not make the parents cringe and still be good kids songs.
Right. Right. And that's always good when you can appeal to everybody.
Right. Parents have to hear what the kids are playing. I mean, I had a little tiny record player. It was a suitcase record player. And I had a Beatle record. I played over and over and over again. And I'm sure it drove my parents nuts, even though it was the Beatles. You know, if you have to hear something 1,000 times, it's gonna drive other people crazy.
Yeah, that's why you have to have more than one album.
Yeah, even still. Pretty sure I wore it out.
I remember being younger and having like, you know, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 albums. I had a 45 and two full albums. And they were Billy Joel, The Nylon Curtain.
That's a good one.
It was good. And the Jay Giles Band, Centerfold.
Oh, right.
Oh, and I had Olivia Newton-John as well.
Of course.
And
I did.
the 45 of the song Africa by Toto. So and then I got more than that. But yeah, those were my records. Then I started really buying stuff. But yeah, for a while, those were the 3 that I was repeating.
Well, when I was little, I had the Beatles, I think it was called Beatles 6. See, it was just a U.S. release. And it had, you know, what are still my favorite Beatles songs on it. It had 8 Days a Week, you know, and Run for Your Life and songs like that on it, which I love those songs so much. And then I only learned many years later that was just a U.S. release, and that a lot of those songs appeared on different records.
Yeah, they for a while they were just re-releasing tons of Beatles. They were just, you know, they had the greatest hits and then the other version of the greatest hits and then the other. And then they, you know, they just kept coming out with the same album, basically.
Right.
Just switching around what they put on the album.
Yes.
Songs.
And it also had Words of Love on it, which was a Buddy Holly cover.
Right. I remember that.
So great. And Yes It Is also by the Beatles. Oh, these are the best songs ever.
Yeah, but some of those old Beatles songs, like they put on these cassettes that you would go get, and they were like $2. But they were great, and you know, I was so excited that I had this Beatles album that, you know, had tracks no one had ever heard them do, but even though they had, but that was my perception.
Right. I also had the Hair soundtrack because that's what my parents had it, so I learned all kinds of interesting songs at the age of 4 that, you know, my parents hoped I would not sing while guests were there.
Yeah, like that one song, which was totally inappropriate for...
yeah, there were a couple.
Yeah, at least one.
Right.
So advice. You mentioned a little bit about advice you would give to other singer-songwriter musicians who were trying to do stuff, and you did a fairly traditional first crack at it by going to school for music. And what happens when you get out with a music degree? What what would you tell somebody who goes to Berklee and then says, now what?
Yeah, now what? That's a good question because, you know, the Berklee degree or music school degree does not guarantee anything. And that's probably true for a lot of professions. But just talking about music, I mean, you know, I think you go to school. One of the reasons to go to any specialized school is it's about who you meet there. You know, because a lot of success is about who you know. So, you know, I still know a lot of people from my Berklee days, but you know, you have to get out and get actual experience, even if you go to school. If you don't go to school, you still have to get the experience. So I would say you know, if someone asked me, was it worth it to go to Berklee? Yes. I think it's worth it to go to music school. But it's not a guarantee of anything. You still need the experience once you get out. So once you get out, play with other people as much as possible. Play with other people, learn from them, do open mics, don't be thin-skinned about your songwriting. If songwriting is something that you do, I thrive on getting feedback about my songwriting from going to that class. You don't have to take everybody's suggestions. When they say this, you should fix that, you should do that. You don't have to take anyone's advice, but it's good to hear it. I find it very valuable to know what, for example, if I'm in a class that has 6 other people in it, if everybody starts picking on the same area of my song, there's got to be a reason.
Right.
Even if I don't agree with what they think is wrong, something's going on in that section of the song
Right.
that's worth my attention. It's up to me to fix it. So, there's no point in having a thin skin about it. So I would say, learn. There's no harm in learning stuff. Do I think you need to learn a lot of music theory and go to music school? No, but it can't hurt you to learn.
Right.
I think it's really valuable. The reason I started teaching my class is because I know a lot of singer-songwriters, especially women, who don't know how to write their songs down for a band to play. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. We're not talking about lead sheets with detailed melody and rhythm, just a basic song chart. There's no reason that someone cannot learn to do that. Does it take practice? Yes, it does. But it's really worth it. And it's important, especially for women, to be able to hold their head up and say, this is what I wrote. This is what I meant. This is what I want, And it doesn't mean you can't ask for help. But I know a lot of side men, and I hear what they say. She didn't know what she wanted. She didn't even know what she wrote. She didn't know anything. She didn't know what key she was in. And, that's going to be normal if you've never learned that stuff. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but I find that there seems to be some resistance to admitting that you don't know something, and that's silly. It's better to know. Maybe, maybe you have lots of great instincts and you don't need to know theory, but once in a while, it's nice to know, hey, maybe I could do this instead.
Right.
And also, in my classes, I know a number of very, very successful background singers, men and women, very successful, touring with the highest level out there. And they do what they do, and they do it great, and they've learned over years and years of experience and practice to just be fantastic.
Yeah.
But I also learned, from 1 or 2 of them that they get nervous because, part of them knows they don't know how to read, and if they didn't have the experience that they've had so far, plus, they're often with the same other singers and they know how they all work, they would be nervous. They would be nervous. And with just a little bit of knowledge, they could get rid of that. But it's hard to get them into class because they don't want other people to know that they don't what they don't know. Anyway, my point is really just don't be afraid to learn and admit that you need to learn something, because it gives you it'll give you a leg up on somebody else for sure.
Well,
When you're going for a job or some kind of music situation. One time I got a call from a friend of a friend, great guitar player, excuse me. She said yes to a gig. It was a country gig. She said she could read the Nashville number system, but she couldn't.
oh yeah.
And the mutual friend said, why don't you call Tamara? I'll bet she knows it. Did I know it? No, I didn't. But I had the time of my life learning it and teaching it to her,
Right.
So she had a lot of guts. She took the gig even though she didn't know how to read it. And by the way, the Nashville number system is fantastic. It's very, very interesting. It was probably the best part of my summer was learning the Nashville number system. So don't be afraid to reach out and get help. and learn things. And I would say also, in my 20s and 30s, I didn't have the same good practice routine that I have today. Practice is really, really important, and being really disciplined about it.
Yeah.
Because when I feel like I've really practiced something, and I don't mean like playing it 1,000 times. I mean focused practice. What am I actually doing? Slowing things down and really listening to what I'm doing. Then when I go on stage, I know it. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like, oh my God, I hope I don't mess this up. And still I mess up, but I don't go up there expecting to mess up, which is a big difference.
Right.
And I also practice. Part of my practice is focus. I stand here. Sometimes I put a microphone up, even though it's not connected, just so I remember that when I get on stage, there's going to be a microphone in front of my face.
Right.
I can't just face any way I want it to face. I have to stay pointed at the microphone. And I also practice imagining people coming in and out of the club, people that might make me nervous. I imagine them coming in and I just push them out of my mind. It's a form of meditation, I suppose. I practice not getting towards the end of the song and thinking, oh my God, I'm almost done with this song and I didn't mess up yet.
Right.
Because, hey, that's when I'm going to mess up. Or thinking about what song is next before I'm done with the one I'm on. So I think having a good practice routine is very important. And trying to learn, about the instrument, especially the guitar. The guitar is confusing. I spent many years not wanting to learn about it after high school and just being forced to practice and whatever. I didn't want any instruction whatsoever. And then years later, I thought, you know what? I think it's time I learn a little bit about what I'm actually doing. And it just makes me feel better. I don't have to use everything I learn, but I know it.
Yeah. So how about we do one more song to close off the show? And what do you want to do? Short one, long one, whatever.
I'll do a short one. This is a song I wrote for that class. The assignment was to write about something that you lost. Mm-hmm. And while all of my songs I can remember just being tortured over, because I'm a very slow writer, as I said, I had no time at all to finish this in time for class. And I was fortunate enough to just come up with this. And I don't think I ended up having to work on it too much, but that's very rare for me. This one is called Umbrella.
Okay.
Caught in the rain again, can't explain it, won't pretend. Somehow, I don't know, I let go. Where's the bus? Late, here it comes. Great, it's my fault, yes it is, all of it. The sun won't come out now, that's how it always is. I cursed you on the corner when you buckled in the wind. I didn't mean to lose you, I know you think I did. It's not true. Lots of clouds by myself, won't go out with someone else. Every time I lose you, it rains. Thank you.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Well, Tamara, thank you for coming on the show today. It was
Thank
a lot
you.
of fun. And I'm sure we'll see you someday back in the New England area up
I
here.
hope so.
And you can find out more about Tamara's stuff by going to tamarahay.com. That's TAMARAHEY.com. And you can check out her stuff. So I wanted to say that you should all check out hearingroom.net, and you should also go to the Greenville Junction Shoppe, JUNKTIONSHOPPE on Facebook Marketplace and on the web. And everybody have a great week.
Thank you.
If you start with a dream and share it with some friends, the idea deepens and grows. The dream takes shape, it has form and substance, a community soon arose. A listening room, the hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room, express yourself and have your say. The walls are thin, sirens blare, the tables sit near folding chairs, the stage is set, the paint and blue, and love went into every screw. The light shine bright on every star, they come to play from near and far. The light shine bright on every star, they come to play from near and far. A listening room, the hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room, express yourself and have your say. Hearing room, a listening room, you're welcome